Greater Sandton and beyond. Get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to this, the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 182. It's week 47, and of course, the Sandton Times Hour is always available online wherever you are. Hop onto your favorite podcast platform. How's that for a tongue twister? And make sure that you subscribe and make it part of your weekly listening. And of course, if you want to get in touch, you can do so by sending through your questions, your comments, your feedback, your input to editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media @SandtonTimes, and also hop onto the website www.sandtontimes.co.za and get all the latest news. Whatever comes across my desk, whatever sounds interesting, it'll be up on the Sandton Times website and of course across the platforms. A very special welcome to you. If this is your very first time tuning in, welcome to the show. It's good to have you be part of it. Pull up a chair, join the community, and I hope you have a wonderful hour of listening, and hopefully you'll be back again for more. And of course, our regular listeners, those who tune in every single week, who make this part of their routine, a very special welcome to you. Wherever you are, in Johannesburg, in Pretoria, across Gauteng and South Africa, and of course, everywhere and anywhere else in the world, online or on air, wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandtonland. And as many might know, my trusted left hand Vincenzo joins me again in studio to drive the mixing desk to make sure that everything sounds as it should. And I think for 99.9% of the time we do a pretty good job, Vincenzo. And then there's like those odd shows where things just sort of go a little bit south, but we won't point those out. Well, let's have a look at the week that has been, as I always like to just reflect on the stuff that we get up to when we're not sitting behind a microphone doing the show, hosting the show. I've been down to Cape Town for a 2-day launch of the new Suzuki Swift, an unbelievably popular car. And if you drive one, well, it'd be interesting to hear from you as to why you enjoy driving it and if it's a car that you've fallen in love with. But they've brought out a new one, and they've made a big noise about it. And there's going to be some more information up on the website now in terms of what that new model looks like, that updated version of the Suzuki Swift. Then the Hyde Hotel had a major opening in Rosebank. They threw a party, let me tell you, one for the ages, and they even had Mikasa there performing, and people had a blast. I bumped into people afterwards, and they said it went well into the early hours of the morning. So a new hotel, I think it's the first Hyde Hotel in South Africa. So I suppose let's make a big noise around that. Then APVA hosted a Champagne in Africa festival in Sandton, and it looked absolutely stunning. What an effort they made to make Summer Place look transformed. I mean, Summer Place in its own right is an impressive venue, but then if you add a bit of bouge and sass to it, it really does come to life. Then I managed to squeeze in a dinner with celebrity chef Jameson Stocks, who's out in South Africa. I believe he lives between London and New York, so I'm not quite sure which one he was coming from, but he was here to do a bespoke and very intimate dinner with a few media people to showcase what he's doing, and I think he's got some plans in South Africa in the upcoming months, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Then I popped into Ferrari in Bryanston. I don't know if you've ever driven past the Ferrari dealership in Bryanston. Beautiful dealership, massive, and the most impressive lineup of cars. Oh, I went on a tour. They took me around to have a look at some of the newer models, some of the more classic models, some of the more popular models. And I don't know if you know this, but if you want to pop in there and just have a look, you can just go there. They've got a beautiful new boutique as well. If you're a bit of a Ferrari fan and you want, something like a perfume or a key ring or whatever, they've got a whole new section there also for the Ferrari F1 fans. There's some stuff there as well. And also you can have a look around the dealership. They were saying to me, people often feel intimidated just to come and have a look, and maybe you've got kids, or maybe you've got somebody in your family who's a big Ferrari fan who wants to have a look at these cars. Well, go pop in, tell them I sent you, and let them show you some of the incredible vehicles that they have. And also, I managed to also have a quick squiz at the service facilities, where the cars all get fixed and, have their service, etc. And also just unbelievable, that operation as well. Then Johnny Walker Blue Label, they transformed a venue in Hyde Park into an ice chalet wonderland for the launch of their new limited edition inspired by snow-capped mountains of Europe. Also, a very impressive event, beautifully put together. And that was sort of middle of the week. Then Workshop 17 launched a new shared office space in Hyde Park Corner. They've transformed the roof of Hyde Park Corner Shopping Centre into a bit of a, I suppose, I don't know, office wonderland. Is that the right word? I'm not quite sure. Clothing label Psycho Bunny, they opened their first store in Africa in Sandton City. So if you're a big Psycho Bunny fan, they're now in South Africa as well. And then Jameson, the beloved Irish whiskey, they opened their Christmas market on Nelson Mandela Square, featuring a lot of, well, Jameson goods. It looks like a little bit of like those Christmas markets that you see overseas. But most of the stuff that's being sold there has got something to do with Jameson. So if you're a big Jameson fan, good for you. There's something there for you. If you're not, well, you might find you're left a little bit wanting. But go check it out. They've also got a Jameson Christmas tree as well. And I think that's about enough to mention about the week. Pretty jam-packed, I think. So let's have a look at who we're talking to this week, Vincenzo. In a bit, I'll be catching up with one of South Africa's most well-known cartoonists to chat about his career, but also to chat about his latest book that could be a very popular gift for Christmas this year. Then I catch up with a local business coach to get some of his insights that might provide you with some breakthrough going into 2025. This is also that time of the year where you start thinking about, well, what's next year going to look like? So maybe this will inspire you to think a bit differently, bit of a reframer. Stay listening for that. And if you're a regular subscriber to the Sandton Times Hour online, i.e. the podcast edition of this show, I've got an exclusive bonus interview that I'm going to be throwing in this week. And if you love cooking, or you want to learn how to cook, or you've got friends that you want to get together and go do some cooking, well, this conversation is going to be for you. So make sure you check it out on the podcast edition. A little bonus listening there as we wind down the year. And finally, the festive season is around the corner. It's time to get together, maybe sing some carols, but also raise some funds for some very good causes. And I'm going to give you some information on that. All this and more up in the next hour.
Show some love.
Subscribe, share,
Leave a review and rating for the Sandton Times Hour.
on your favorite podcast app now.
Follow the Sandton Times on social media.
At Sandton Times.
A man that's become synonymous with the inkwell and his pen and the way he manages to illustrate some of South Africa's most topical news. Jonathan Shapiro, he's South African cartoonist known as Zapiro, and his work has appeared in numerous South African publications, but also he does us all a great favor and puts all his work into an annual release. This latest book that he has for 2024 is called Have I Got GNUs for You? And Zapiro/Jonathan Shapiro, it's great to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Jonathan, let's get straight into this new book. Have I Got GNUs for You? Obviously, a wordplay on the GNU, and people have made a meal of the fact that we've got wildebeest or GNUs running around our own backyard. It is your 29th release, if I've got that correct. But what keeps you motivated to keep capturing South Africa's social-political landscape every single year and bringing it out as a book?
I mean, I've always just been really interested in what's going on around me, and I think having immersed myself in, not during my university days so much, but post-university, in becoming an activist, that period of my life informed the rest of my life, really. I've always wanted to take part somehow in what's going on. When I feel a little jaded and I turn on the radio in the morning, I've got a tiny little Sony, old-fashioned little thing. I try to listen on the actual radio before I even start looking at what's out there on different news sites and everything. And something just like pisses me off, then that's like a good day for a cartoonist. Except there's too much of the being pissed off sometimes, and as a citizen, I want it to be a bit less so. Moral outrage is what drives cartoonists like me, and satirists, and the stand-up comedians, and then all the kind of humor and whatever else we're trying to communicate. It comes out of wanting to say something, wanting to show up the hypocrisy or whatever it is.
Is it a fine balance between saying something clever and smart and packaged in the way that you package it versus just ranting and raving and just letting something out on paper? Do you sometimes find yourself having to sort of like just take a step back and go, okay, hang on a second, let me just sort of collect my thoughts and actually put something down here that is classic Zapiro?
There are a couple of ways to answer that question. On the one hand, I do have a very conscious desire as a cartoonist to be clever, in the sense that all satire and all jokes and all cartooning is about surprise and the twist. So, I mean, if you're going to just say something that is all outrage, without a twist or something clever, whether it makes you laugh, whether it makes you angry, whether it has pathos, whether it just makes you think, then you're not really doing your job as a cartoonist or a satirist. Because the thing that makes it interesting for people is that twist that helps them see something in a different way. So that's the first thing. So I'm always looking for that. And if I don't have that, then I do feel I'm not doing a good job. But the other thing that I think of when you ask that question is, I often quote Peter Dirk Ace on this. Peter Dirk Ace said that satire is 51% humor and 49% anger. And if the anger bit gets more than kind of half the thing, or whatever the proportion actually is, if there's too much anger and too little kind of twist or cleverness, it actually falls flat. I think, in a sense, that answers the question in two ways.
You and Peter Dirk Ace lived through a time in South Africa where censorship was a government institution. Now, censorship has taken on a whole new form. I mean, I think we've become a world that is very sensitive, sprinkled with handfuls of outrage, be it manufactured or original outrage. Has this impacted the way that you approach your work and your commentary at all?
It would be wrong. It would be disingenuous for me to say that it hasn't affected things. Those sort of forces do affect the way one does stuff, but you try not to self-censor. That I really try not to self-censor my the political impact or the force with which I want to say things. But where I do feel it has affected me is in sometimes in how I say it. My general sort of rule of thumb over the past about almost 10 years, possibly 15 years, I think maybe I only started to kind of get it just under 10 years ago, was that if I think of something that I think is really brilliant, but the metaphor is so controversial that it may overpower what I'm actually trying to say, then I'm not going to temper what I wanted to say. I'm going to have to find another metaphor that won't, there'll be so much tangential noise that it actually detracts from the message. So that's how I think about it. I have to be a little bit on my toes to think, well, find another way to say it. That's it.
I mean, talking about sort of overpowering messages, I mean, I think the biggest theme for this year has been the GNU, or as they say, the GNU Dawn. Is this the dominating topic in your new book? And for those who might get wrapped up in all the GNU-related cartoons, where are some of the side alleys and sort of things that they shouldn't miss out on when they go through this year's edition?
The GNU is the sort of central and overarching thing, and then and I'll pick up a couple of the side alleys as well. But other than that, of course, remember that the book begins, I mean, right near the beginning of the annual, because the annual tends to go from sort of October to October, or maybe the beginning of October to the end of September, or just into the beginning of the next October, because it has to be published before Christmas and all that. So October 7 is right early on in the life of this book, and that was the Hamas attack, which was really difficult to deal with, and then knowing that the Israeli response was immediately over the top and going to be even more so, and there's a huge context there. So that then becomes quite a central theme in the book as well. I dealt with all of that at the beginning, and then come back to it at various times. It was the run up to the American elections, the huge chunk of it that is about Trump and about the idiocy of Trump and the idiocy of people voting for him, and then the Biden doddering and Kamala Harris coming in, and I suppose as a cartoonist, anyone progressive hoping that Trump would get beaten. The election itself is not in this annual. That will be in the next annual. The sort of side alleys, well, of course, right at the beginning of the year, the very first cartoon of the year is the ANC. The ANC, of course, celebrates its anniversary on January the 8th. So the January 8th edition, January 8th cartoon is Zuma steals part of the ANC logo. He runs away with the spear. And the ANC at 112 looks its age. And Cyril kind of in a wheelchair as part of the ANC logo with a kind of colostomy bag. And the top of that colostomy bag, the rod is the spear which Zuma has stolen. And that then becomes a recurring thing. What's happening with MK? How is MK affecting the ANC? How is MK affecting the EFF? What happens during the election? What happens to... I have lots of animals in this book because I have a new kind of revised size big five. They all change sizes. The IFP elephant now is a tiny little thing, and then I played with all the other parties as animals. So there's a lot of that going around.
Well, I'm chatting to Jonathan Shapiro. He is a man who uses his pen and does some incredible work as a cartoonist. Chatting about his latest book, Have I Got News for You? A look back at the year that has been, as he mentioned, starting from sort of October, September last year up until now. I'm going to take a quick break and more of the Sandton Times Hour on Mix 93.8 right after this.
The best of talk and music in 1 hour. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
Jonathan Shapiro's latest book is titled Have I Got News for You? Available at all good bookstores, both online and offline. And before the break, we were chatting about just how things have changed, how things have stayed the same, and also what has inspired Jonathan's latest release, his 29th release, I believe. And Jonathan, editorial cartoons have had a very interesting history over the years from when they started to how they've evolved. Now, obviously, there's much more of a digital or online presence. How do you see these cartoons fitting into this new world and into the new landscape? Do you feel like this will be something that'll be with us for many more years or decades to come?
In some form or another, the answer is yes. As you say, things have changed, things shift. The earlier versions of newspaper cartoons that started to really take root in the 19th century, really. The 19th century, they were very, 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 very wordy, tremendously wordy, but people were not exposed to the kind of speed of media and different kinds of media. So it was print. And then in the 20th century, still the convention of the cartoon was developing in print over most of the century. By the later part of the 20th century, the cartoons were much kind of zippier. And by the early part of the 21st century, of course, they were now starting to be spread between the newspapers and online, and they started to take a little bit of a different look, and I think the memes started to compete with editorial cartoons. So now that the memes are so fast and they're also all over the place, and things are moving so much more onto the digital platform, as editorial cartoonists, we still have a place, but in a way, we've got to do things that are slightly different from the memes. There may be more content or different kinds of things. Editorial cartooning in varying forms, and sometimes quicker and lighter and flippant and almost meme-like. Those are going to be around for a hell of a long time, and I think there'll always be a place for something like this.
Well, next year will be your 30th release. Jonathan, will that be the grand finale, or are you looking to carry on drawing your cartoons well into whenever you can't draw anymore? And do you also have sort of a protege or a plan to pass on this torch that you've lit over the last 30 editions or 29 editions?
I'm certainly going to continue doing cartoons. Whether or not I carry on in exactly this form after the 30th, I'm not sure, because there are other kinds of cartooning that I've always been interested in, and I've only done a little bits of here and there. So I'll have to see what happens after next year. But I'll certainly want to do a hell of a lot more in whatever way I do it. And the other question about it's not as if I have a plan to pass on any particular pattern. That has been going for a heck of a long time from me and from a number of other older cartoonists or cartoonists from a different era. There were no black cartoonists at all who got a chance to really do much in this genre in the 20th century. It really only started a few years into the new South Africa, but by the early part of the 2000s, there've been quite a few young cartoonists coming out all over the place. So you just have to look on various media platforms, and some really good people. I'm really interested at the moment in Nathi Ngubane in particular. He's just done some very interesting stuff, but he's not the only one. There are lots. There's kind of now a couple of generations of post-apartheid cartoonists who are doing great stuff on all sorts of platforms. So I think that baton has been passed by me and a number of other older cartoonists. And yeah, I think that South Africans are good at doing funny stuff and satirical stuff, whether it's in cartooning or in stand-up comedy.
Well, make sure you get a copy of Zapiro's latest book titled Have I Got News for You? It's a great way to look back on a year, maybe you remind yourself of some of the things that have happened, because so much happens in a year that sometimes you totally forget. And as Zapiro highlighted as well, of course, it's some of it's funny, some of it's challenging, some of it's thought-provoking, but that's what makes it a great read, and it's obviously available at all good bookstores, both online and offline. And Jonathan Shapiro, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour, and I wish you all the very best for this latest release.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Great.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
And as we get into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, don't forget, if you heard something interesting on the show this week, but you didn't get the details, names, further information, don't stress, don't worry, you don't have to jot it all down. You can head on to the website www.sandtontimes.co.za and visit the show notes, where we'll put up all the details, some highlights, and of course some further reading and links for you. And also, don't forget to follow the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times, Instagram, Threads, X, Facebook, you name it, you can find it all over. And that'll also keep you posted on all topical news and, of course, all other things that are happening in the world of the Sandton Times. Now, Larry Hodes is a seasoned entrepreneur and business coach with a wealth of experience spanning over 3 decades. And we connected this past week, and I said, well, listen, why don't you come onto the show and let's have a chat about your coaching program and coaching business called Grow. And he's deeply committed to empowering leaders and teams to unlock their potential and build impactful, enduring businesses. And Larry brings not only his coaching expertise, but he's also got some entrepreneurial experience. In fact, he's been doing it for a very long time, and he's built some very successful businesses. Some of them you might know if you live in Greater Sandton, Gourmet Grocer, Arbor Cafe, and Cafefo Roastery. And he joins me on the line right now. And Larry, it's good to chat to you again.
Oh, Alex, it's really wonderful to be here. Thanks very much for the invite.
Larry, you've gone ahead and created a talk called The Mindset of the Successful Entrepreneur, which has resonated with many people. And why do you think that is?
I think, Alex, you know what? One of the key questions is, if we go and see success, success has actually got call it a formula. Mm-hmm. And success is essentially made up of 2 things. One is mindset, and the other one is like tools, systems, and processes. People believe that as long as you know everything, you know that you follow the system, you follow the processes and everything like that, you're going to come out. Tools only account for 20% of your success. The other 80% is actually mindset. And a quick example just to demonstrate this. You go and take 2 salespeople who have been working, say, for the same insurance company for, come and say, 5 years. They both report to the same boss. They both got exactly the same support, the same systems and everything like that. But a key question is, why does one only earn 20K a month and the other one earn 100K a month? It's not the environment or resources. It's their mindset. So many times people will go and tell you, so as an example, the 20K will tell you, oh, the economy is so bad. People don't want to buy, people don't want to spend, and come up with all the reasons. So what do? They create like a negative mindset. We've also got what's called, that's built into our brains. All of us have got it, which is called a reticular activating system, what we call the RAS. And the RAS's job is to go out and support whatever you fed into your brain. So as an example, have you ever bought a car, Alex?
I have, indeed. Indeed, yes.
What happened when you decided on the car you were going to go?
You see it everywhere, right?
You start seeing them everywhere. Now, that's just a great example, because what happened, you fed into your RAS, and your RAS goes out looking for things to support what's in your mind. So the 20K salesman will go out. So what does the RAS do? It goes out looking for things to reinforce all the negativity in their brain. So even though there are opportunities, they completely miss all these opportunities because they're so focused on that. Whereas the 100K, they might still acknowledge, okay, cool, you know what, that the economy is not doing well and blah, 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 and everything like that. But their focus is, okay, cool, but I know that there's still business out there. I've got to go and look for those opportunities. So what have they done? They've fed their RAS, their reticular activating system, which goes out, and it's like a heat-seeking missile. Incredibly powerful, and it'll find all the opportunities that are actually there for the negative, for the 20K individual, but because they focused on the negative, they're not seeing all the positives.
So, Larry, you've done this talk for numerous audiences. What is some of the mindset that you're seeing out there when it comes to business owners and entrepreneurs?
Oh, you know what? It's across. So one of my current clients, I'm dealing with a client who's so, so she owns a business, and she's got the ability and everything like that. But her mindset right now is so negative. And it is, oh, I can't do this. It's just too much. The world, life is not fair. Life is, and all of this negativity, even though she's got a great product, currently she's really struggling. Whereas I've got some great entrepreneurs out there who are so focused. Yes, I know that we're in the middle of this or that, but you know what? I'm making it happen. And that's why I honestly believe that majority of success is definitely all to do with mindset.
Clearly, your experience in having had the hands-on approach, not just sort of an academic background and all of this, has clearly fed into a lot of the knowledge that you also impart with people now.
Absolutely, because what I also like about myself is that I was an entrepreneur before I became a coach. I was an entrepreneur that has managed to create really successful businesses, but I was also an entrepreneur that created some that went south. And I've been through all those experiences. I've been through all creating successful businesses, but I've also been through creating duds and incredible financial pressure, and that allows me just to, I suppose, be a lot more empathetic, to where people are, so that's definitely assisted me with my coaching.
You focus on giving entrepreneurs very actionable steps. I mean, you've mentioned some of the clients that you're dealing with. Some of them are coming in with the right mindset, some of them are not. What are some of those sort of one or two key strategies that you sort of present in your talk, and also when you sit down with people, that they could start applying right now? Maybe even some people that are listening right now.
So the one thing, as I mentioned, is what are you focusing on right now? If I have to ask you the question right now, do you focus more on the things that you don't have or the things that you do have?
Well, I think in general, I'd like to say that we always focus on things that we don't have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's that's majority of people. Oh, I don't have this. I don't have this. So automatically, we've just got to be aware. What are we choosing to focus on? So are we choosing, as an example, and you might know some people out here. They're so negative about the country. There's, that all the corruption, the politics, this and that and everything. So what does their mind go out there? It looks for all the negative things to reinforce that this is really a bad country. Whereas with me, yes, do I acknowledge that the potholes are there, that there's corruption and very poor politics? Absolutely. But I choose not to focus on that. It's often what happens when you go to a bar. You'll have guys that are standing around the bar. What are they talking about? All the corruption and everything, but they're talking about things that they cannot control instead of saying, okay, cool. Can I do anything about politics? Can I do anything about potholes on a national level? Of course, we can go and fill our own little potholes, so that's what we can do. So we can say, the little pothole in front of my road, in front of my driveway. Yes, I can go and clear that. So let me go and do something about that. So the main point I'm trying to make here is choose what you're focusing on, and what you're focusing on, ensure that it's within your circle of control. One of my favorite books, and I'm sure many others, is Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of his key things is a circle. What are you choosing? Your circle of control. And many people focus on things that they cannot control, but yet, they still want, all the other things. Whereas majority of successful, and I'm going to say almost all successful entrepreneurs say, cool, you know what? Can I do anything about the government? Can I do anything about whatever the corruption? No, I can't. Let me focus. What can I do? I can become a better salesman. I can become a better leader. I can go and create a better culture within my organization. All these things, they focus on what they can do and they go ahead with that.
Well, some sobering thoughts there, Larry, and I'm sure there's some people out there who need that kind of sounding board, especially if they're living in the echo chamber that you've described. And we're going to put your details up on the website if people want to reach out to you and get in touch. Business coach and entrepreneur Larry Hodes, thank you for making the time to chat to me on the Sandton Times Hour and to share your insights.
Oh, Alex, an absolute pleasure.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Well, if you've been in and around Sandton and you are somewhat of a passionate cook, or maybe you're into cooking at all, but you do want to brush up on a bit of your skills, well, you might or might not know that Sandton has its very own studio where you can learn how to cook, where you can get some friends together, or you can get some colleagues together, or you can just go on your own, and you can learn how to cook dishes, but not just any dishes. You can actually cook healthy dishes, because it's something going into the new year. I know after Christmas there's going to be that regret of having lived through the festive season and maybe wanting to make some different choices for 2025. So I thought, well, let's get somebody on from this particular cooking studio, and it's called the Vitality Health Food Studio. It's in the Discovery Building, which is a very impressive building in the heart of Sandton. And here to chat to me about the studio, what it does, how it works, getting you all the details, is Dr. Mosima Mabuda, Vitality's Chief Clinical Officer. And Doctor, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you for having me.
You are the Vitality's Chief Clinical Officer. It's not a title that you would connect with cooking in a kitchen. I was going to say, Chef Mosima, but that's not the case.
I actually would love to be Chef Mosima, but I am grossly underqualified. But I actually would like to elaborate on my role and the link to cooking. Very much linked. Nutrition is a key health pillar, and unhealthy diets or dietary risk factors contribute to non-communicable diseases. So very much my role involves healthy lifestyle pillars, of which nutrition is one. And the ability to educate people, incentivize people, teach people how to eat healthy food sits squarely in my team. I actually have a nutrition portfolio with a dietitian and nutritionist actually focusing on that pillar. So it's really a key pillar. But as for Chef Mosima, I can continue to aspire to that.
Well, listen, they do say that food is the best medicine, and there's always more and more, I suppose, studies and philosophies that are directing us into saying, instead of trying to fix things with pharmaceuticals or sort of heavy interventions, just look at what you're eating every single day. And that is probably the first start towards living a healthier life or living a longer life.
So there is a continuum in terms of what an individual needs to be healthy and to be well. Fundamentally, the things that you do on a day-to-day basis contribute to your well-being. Eating is one. What you eat provides the nutrients for your body to actually function optimally. What you eat also informs your ability to actually maintain a healthy weight. And we know that overweight and obesity is one of the key risk factors for non-communicable diseases such as diabetes. And obesity is one of the risk factors that drives diabetes. So what you eat is fundamentally important to allow your body to function. Whether you're healthy, even if you're unwell, specifically if you're unwell as well, you need to be meticulous about what you eat, because your body converts the nutrients that you eat into energy that ultimately supports and sustains your body. So it's absolutely important. However, there is a need for certain individuals who are diagnosed with conditions to also take medications. But what one cannot emphasize enough is the importance of making sure that you nourish your body. Hence, we always talk about a balanced, healthy diet, and hence an investment in something like the Healthy Food Studio is important for our business. Because if you think of our nutrition pillar, where we say we teach our members to buy healthy food and we incentivize them to buy healthy food, our members and cashbacks to make healthy food purchases accessible. We know that you can't move from buying to eating. You need to learn how to cook the food. You need to learn to cook dishes that you enjoy, dishes that are quick, dishes that suit your budget, dishes that are just fairly accessible to the family. And we know that not many of us are actually skilled. And hence something like the Healthy Food Studio plays that role and bridges the actually being able to buy healthy ingredients to actually having a healthy meal on your plate.
So let's get into the fun stuff, because now we've spoken about the heavy stuff, about sort of the nutrition and the science behind it. But let's talk about the actual space itself, because I've had a chance to actually look at it. It's unbelievable. It's a great, spacious place. You've got different cooking stations. You've got a chef that leads these classes, that takes you through various different dishes. So you're not just going there and just making salads every time you go. There's a variety of different flavors, a variety of different styles of cooking. Just take us through kind of what the studio offers and how people can kind of learn different culinary skills.
I think let me start by trying to paint a picture for anyone who's never been to the Healthy Food Studio. It is on a beautiful rooftop overlooking the Johannesburg skyline. I think everyone who walks in there, they immediately walk over to the balcony on the rooftop to have a look at the views. The views are exquisite. Let me start there. If you come just for anything, the views themselves are absolutely worth it. It is absolutely beautiful. The studio was launched in 2016, and as I mentioned, the aim is really to educate and inspire South Africans to cook healthy food, but to also create a space, like you said, where people can come in a beautiful space and actually have fun and enjoy preparing and sharing a meal together. So that's also another objective, that we're trying to create a fun space where people can come and have fun, or people actually even have kids parties in that space. So it's really versatile like that. So how we structure the studio is we usually have a series of classes and they're themed. And as you go on the calendar, you can pick a class that resonates with the skill set that you want to learn. Either you want to learn how to make Thai food, Asian, Mediterranean, etc. So there's a versatile menu that suits varied needs, and you can pick a class that resonates with you. We, from time to time, tend to have celebrity chef. I think recently we had Chef Wandile Mabaso, and his class was sold out, as you can imagine.
I'm sure.
It was absolutely sold out, and I don't think I need to elaborate on why. But we partner with some of the celebrity chefs to also offer a different experience to what our chefs would offer. But our studio is equipped with chefs that are there permanently, and every time you book a class, or if you book private event, or you book out the studio for your group of friends or your colleagues or your family, our chef will be there to work on a menu that would suit you, that you like. Or you can actually ask them to challenge your taste and offer options that you might not have thought of. But ultimately, they will align with you if it's a private booking on what the menu would be, and they would take you through how it's prepared. And what I like is the chef understands that we're all at different stages of learning how to cook. They can offer you an end-to-end where you prepare your 3-course meal all together and you leave with the recipe. Or they can say you can opt to prepare one course and then you observe as they prepare the other courses, but they still allow you to actually interact and see how they prepare the meals. And from my experience, having been there, it's not as complicated as one would think. When you see a well-plated dish and you imagine that there must have been some complexity and excessive cost, it's actually not always that, right? So that's what I appreciate about the Healthy Food Studio, that it's actually helped me believe that I can eat healthy. I've been pescatarian for the past 3 years, moving towards vegetarian, and it was possible because I was able to tap into their recipes and the skills that they teach me in terms of how to prepare simple dishes, that I was able to sustain it.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because fish is just one of those things that a lot of people probably steer away from, because the only way they know how to make fish is either they deep fry it, which is obviously not the point of this conversation, or they end up just steaming it and it becomes the most boring protein you've ever had. And then they just say, well, you know what, forget the fish, we're going back to chicken or beef or whatever else there is. So just to have those chances to understand how the techniques can make such a difference. Maybe it's the way you cook it, the way you spice it, how long you cook it for. Those small little techniques are something that you possibly could learn in one of these classes that could possibly be the world of change in your cooking and in your menu lineup as you sit at home and want to improve some of the choices you make in terms of your nutrition. I like the fact that you also mentioned the social element, because as much as you could probably sit at home and open a cookbook and try and figure it out, there is also a health benefit to being around other people and socializing with people, and something that we've probably also discovered when we were locked away during COVID and had no one to interact with.
Completely agree. Actually, the Healthy Food Studio is popular with teams and groups of people because people value an opportunity to connect, because we know that isolation, if you're persistently isolated, it can contribute negatively towards your mental health. So the opportunity to connect with people in a fun environment, learning a new skill for many of us who actually go to the studio is actually quite nice. And it leaves many people wanting to come back. So people would typically get invited to a function in the studio, and when they leave, they're looking for opportunities to reconnect. And hence the classes become a space for them to come back to the studio where you can come on your own, but you're still going to find a group of people that are interested in something that you're also interested in. Because when you come to a class, you self-select because the class is themed. You meet other people that are interested in that cuisine or the skill set that you're looking to learn. So it's really a fun way to build a community of people interested in preparing healthy meals. I could not recommend it enough.
Well, I know that these classes are incredibly popular. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the information up on the website for those listening. If this is something that sounds interesting to you, all I can say is you need to get in there and book as soon as you can, because sometimes you think, oh, you know what, let me see how next week goes. Let me try and get some time. Before you know it, and especially those really popular classes, I always know like Mediterranean is always very popular. And then you've also got like sort of Middle Eastern, all the different flavors, they have their appeal. So if there's something that really speaks to you, make sure that you get in there, make sure that you book it sooner rather than later, and get in there. You know, the best part is if you're intimidated by the kitchen, the best way of getting over it is actually just starting somewhere and just chopping some onions or cutting up something and experiencing and having somebody guide you through the process. And Dr. Mosima Mabuda, Vitality's Chief Clinical Officer, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour to chat about the Vitality Health Food Studio right here in the heart of Sandton.
Thank you so much for having me. And I just want to encourage your listeners, if this is interesting, please don't hesitate to call us on 011-529-6527 or email us on healthyfoodstudio@discover.co.za. And you can also follow the Healthy Food Studio on Instagram to see a little bit of what I'm talking about. And I hope to see many of you there.
Well, the picture's worth 1,000 words, so go check that out on Instagram. And it's been great having you on.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
On 23 November 2024, Melrose Arch will light up with the magic of carols on the Piazza. And it's a very popular holiday event to celebrate the festive season. And this year, the event will feature the world-renowned Mzansi Youth Choir, fresh off their remarkable success on America's Got Talent. And the funds that will be raised from the event will go towards supporting the South African Guide Dogs Association and Cornell Leach, a courageous guide dog owner who requires vision restoring surgery. But to give me all the information and more, I've got Melanie Nel. She looks after marketing at the South African Guide Dogs Association. And Melanie, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Hi, Alex. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
So, Melanie, let's kick off with maybe you telling me a little bit more about the work of the South African Guide Dogs Association. You support people with visual, physical, and developmental disabilities. I've often had people do this weird flip-flop where they end up saying the Blind Dog Association, but it's not the dogs that need the guidance, it's the people who need the guidance.
No, we actually get that more often than not. But no, we are the SA Guide Dogs Association, and we have primarily been training guide dogs for the blind and visually impaired for over 70 years. Sure. Last year was our 70th birthday, so that was quite a special milestone for us. But in addition to the guide dogs for the blind that we train, we also train service dogs who will assist a person with a physical disability. A lot of our clients that use our service dogs are clients who are wheelchair users. So the dog will obviously do specific skills and activities with them. And then we also train autism support dogs for children on the autism spectrum.
Now, I remember you guys used to do a lot of fundraising. I don't know if you still do all those fundraising events that you used to do. I mean, I think this is probably one of your bigger ones for the year. How did the partnership with Melrose Arch and this Carols on the Piazza come about? And what does it mean for you as an association? What can you do with the funds that you raise for this?
This is such a wonderful platform for us, and we have done some work with Melrose Arch in the past, but for a while we haven't actually had such a big event and a platform where we have collaborated with them. So I think a lot has to do with the ties that Cornell has at Melrose Arch. I think she works for a company and they are based there, and I think via that and obviously her being a client of the SA Guide Dogs Association, having one of our dogs that works with her has been opening a door for us there. So that's such a wonderful platform. And yes, so the funds raised at this event, Carols on the Piazza with the Mzansi Youth Choir, will be split between donations towards the SA Guide Dogs Association and our work with the visually impaired, as well as for Cornell, and obviously for her and her mission to restore some of her vision. So that's what it's all about. And we are a non-profit. So the SA Guide Dogs Association relies on events such like these to help us raise funds, and also donations from the public to actually carry on with our operations, to train more dogs to be able to help more people.
Well, give me the rands and cents on this. I mean, what are we talking about in terms of training a dog and making this possible for a person to have a fully trained, qualified dog that'll, in this or in most instances, I would say, look after you for life?
So you might be a bit shocked, Alex, but it can cost us in excess of 200,000 Rand to train one qualified guide dog, because you need to remember, we obviously have our own breeding program, because it is important for us to breed the best dogs there is. And they come from working lines. So we obviously use the working line Labrador that we use for our training. So from that breeding process, the matching process, to our puppy raising program, where the dogs have to grow up first and become a little bit more mature before they can enter formal training. And then our formal training program with our qualified instructors who work full-time at guide dogs. All of that costs money, obviously, and the dogs are also unique. So it also depends on them and their needs. So some of them might have 1 or 2 extra vet visits, 1 or 2 extra scans that they need to do. Those are quite high costs for us. And we have wonderful sponsors on board. I must just say that we have wonderful sponsors and partners who help us with this process. But still, for us to be able to train, and just the resources and time that goes into that, because that process can take up to 2 years or just over 2 years to be able to match a qualified working dog with a person.
Wow. So obviously the event will contribute a portion to some of the training that you need to do. If people want to get involved and contribute to the South African Guide Dogs Association, I think what we'll do is we'll put the details up on our website as well. And if there's anybody who's keen to do something over and above this event, please log onto the Sandton Times website, go have a look, and we'll put the information up on there. But correct me if I'm wrong, I felt like I saw something not too long ago where you also have a foster families program where people can take in dogs to get them used to being around people. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, Alex. So we have our puppy raising program that is operational in Gauteng, as well as on a bit smaller scale in Cape Town with our Cape Town branch. So the puppy raising program entails that a foster family or a family in Gauteng will take a puppy from us at the age of 8 weeks. So just a little Labrador bundle that knows nothing about the world. And they take that dog into their home environment, and the dog is actually raised and trained within their home environment. And after that process, only then we can start formal training. And puppy raising is the longest phase, but also one of the most crucial phases of our training process, because that's where our pups get to experience the world. They go out with the family, they go wherever they go, they are socialized with other dogs, with people of all ages in different environments, different social settings. They are exposed to a lot of stimuli and different environments so that they can get used to being not distracted, focused on their trainer or focused on their puppy raiser, and also be a well-adjusted, all-rounded dog before we start with their formal guide or service training. And this is important because we want a dog, an assistance dog, to go out and be like, I have seen all of this before, I've experienced all of this, nothing phases me, and all I have to do is to focus on my work and my companionship with this person.
And how long do these dogs stay with these families?
So that can be up to 18 months, so anything between 16 to 18 months. And then they are called back to the guide dogs training center to say, right, you are now ready, you're mature, all your scans look good, you're a healthy dog, you are ready to start your formal training, or what we call university training. So then they're done with their schooling and they come to varsity and they either start career training as a guide dog, service dog, or autism support dog. And then it's very specialized, very focused, and very specific training.
My goodness. Well, I think that must be quite something. We're going to put the details up on the website. And of course, if you want to help in one way or another and get into the festive season all at the same time, well, you can go hop on along to the Melrose Arch Carols on the Piazza. Tickets are 200 Rand at CompuTicket. And Melanie Nel, Marketing Manager for the South African Guide Dogs Association. It's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate the opportunity to tell people more about the work we do. And thank you to everyone who's already bought their tickets for this wonderful event, and I hope to see you all there.
Right, and with that, it's all we have time for on the Sandton Times Hour this week. As always, available on all your favorite podcast platforms as well: Apple, Google, Spotify, AfriPods, Podcast Party, the lot. Go check it out, subscribe, and make it part of your regular listening. If you want to get in touch, don't forget you can email editor@sandtontimes.co.za, connect on social media @Sandton Times, and visit the website www.sandtontimes.co.za. And feel free to send through your questions, your comments, your feedback. As always, we try to get through all of it. There is tons of stuff that comes through. So if we don't always get back to you timelessly or at all, it's not you, it's me. Thank you to all our guests for this week, and of course the teamwork that goes into making all of this happen every single week. And thank you to all that contribute and make it happen. And thank you for listening to you. And God willing, we do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.